Absolute Evil is here and we have to go over it. Now this issue is not as action-packed as the other comics in the Absolute universe, but it adds a serious layer of lore and understanding. We've got Absolute debuts, we've got an Evil Justice League. We understand a lot from this issue. We even get an unexpected death of a popular DC character. So let's get right into Absolute Evil and see what's really going on behind the curtain. And we already start with something very behind the curtain as we see Absolute Hawkman in 1951 speaking to the House of Un-American Activities Committee. They've called him in for something very serious. They want his secret identity. They want him to officially be a part of the government and to inform on communists, something that Hawkman has been thinking about for a long time, and he happily agrees. Hawkman is ready to do whatever his country needs. As we see what's going on in the present day, and we see Absolute Green Arrow talking to Roy Harper on the phone as he practices his shots. And we learn he's doing a little more than just practicing his aim. See, this is about to be Absolute Green Arrow's first mission, as he goes after a man named Jubal Slade, who, based on his description, sounds like more of a Jeffrey Epstein PDF file kind of character. And no one's doing anything about it. The courts, the cops, everything's paid off. This is Absolute Green Arrow's way of making a difference. And although we can't hear what Roy is saying, he's clearly very resistant to all of this. But the way Ollie sees it, he's not doing anything with all of his wealth. He could do more. They could do more. He feels like it's time for someone to take a stand. Absolute Green Arrow feels like this is his destiny. And we see the other side of this coin as Hector Hammond, a longtime Green Lantern villain and someone you guys might remember from the Green Lantern movie, talking to the man Green Arrow plans on going after, letting him know that Ollie's nothing, just a man who's gotten a bit older and wants to feel righteous. As he says, a guy turns 40, gets a gray hair, gets ideas. I bought a Maserati. Queen grew a conscience. It happens, but take a breath here. What can he actually do? What's his next move? And it's even crazier that it seems like Ollie is doing all this in secret, practicing so that he can finally make a difference, and these guys already know. They are not afraid of him at all. As he continues talking crap about Ollie, he talks big, sure, but it's Ollie, you know? He doesn't want results, he wants to feel righteous, and nothing feels more righteous than losing. So it's kind of crazy how passionate we just saw Oliver Queen when it comes to making a difference and stopping the bad guys, and we see on the other side, the bad guys see him as absolutely nothing. And as Hector Hammond continues to give the security a big attitude because they have to take his phone, he plans on complaining to the boss. It turns out that boss is Veronica Cale, the person we saw from Area 41 back in Absolute Wonder Woman. And Hammond gets right to making jokes, but Ra's al Ghul is having none of it, as he tells him this is not a place for games. Speak of work or do not speak at all. And this Ra's al Ghul actually looks very cool, especially compared to the OG, as Hammond asks who he is and he tells him, I am Ra's al Ghul. If you do not know what that means, be glad and be silent. And we see everyone in the room kind of jumping in, letting Hammond know this is a place for business. They are dead serious about their time. As Eleanor Thawne tells him their time is more valuable than any resource on the planet, far too precious to be wasted on his little jokes. And once she brings up jokes, we see Absolute Joker as he tells him, I don't enjoy jokes, with this very serious look on his face. And Hammond makes it clear he knows who all of them are, especially the Joker, as he playfully calls him Laughing Boy. It is just so crazy how deadly serious this version of Joker is. But now that they're all acquainted, it's time to get down to business and see why all these villains have been brought here together. As we get a bit of a history lesson and we learn the relationship between the government and these new heroes from back in the day. As Cale tells us, in 1939, a chemist named Wesley Dodds got rich off his patents for improved anesthetic compounds. Soon after, a mass vigilante called the Sandman makes waves in the society pages armed with a non-lethal sleep gas. So it's very obvious that this man created a compound that he then later used for superhero activities, only to be found shot dead in that superhero gear in his own lab. The notes for this non-lethal gas he created, completely stolen. And a year later, the US military acquired some new and very lethal nerve gas weapons. So this man was assassinated, stolen from, and the government used this to create new nerve gas weapons. Weapons that they used to win the war. Even back in the day, in 1939, the government had no problem railroading people to get what they wanted, even superheroes in their own country. And Cale puts it pretty plainly. Was that lethal gas brewed from Dodd's stolen notes? Ask the conspiracy theorists. Did it win the war? Ask the historians. They'll say yes. The ends justify the means. Skip ahead a few years and we learn the history of Absolute Wildcat, which I was pretty disappointed by. In 1942, in Gotham, Ted Grant, a professional boxer, is framed for murder by some small-time hoods. Grant's young, he's romantic, he puts on a cat costume, beats the hell out of them, clears his name. He calls himself the Wildcat. The neighborhood eats it up. Now after this, Wildcat continues to beat more criminals, getting higher and higher amongst the food chain, until later in his career, he takes a bribe for $50,000 and simply quits. And I'm assuming in 1942, $50,000 is a lot of money. As Kale says, he later bought a gym, trained a bunch of champions, and died peacefully in his sleep at age 81. He was being paid to look the other way on factory safety standards. Because of this, 16 people died making that gas that they stole from the Sandman. But again, it's really about the ends justifying the means. Wildcat took that bribe and lived a relatively peaceful life. He trained champions, changed lives. Sandman and the other 16 people died because of this gas, but it won them the war. So according to Kale, taking that bribe was the most heroic thing Wildcat ever did. It's just kinda crazy that's how he went out. And we skip ahead another decade in this history lesson to learn about another hero named Iron Monroe. Now I had to look this guy up, because this is a little before my time. But from the little bit I was able to find, he seems to be just a weaker Superman, someone that actually inspired Superman. Big on truth, justice, and the American way, super strong, super fast, pretty durable. Like I said, weaker Superman. And eventually he was called into the same meeting we saw Hawkman in at the very beginning of this issue. But unlike Hawkman, who was more than willing to comply, this man, Iron Monroe, was not. And because of that, within a year he was ruined, living in a lonely shack in the Nevada desert. And once again, we get back to that gas. As Kale says, while he was living alone in this Nevada desert, he was accidentally targeted for a chemical weapons test. Looks like someone might have filed the wrong paperwork, apparently. Obviously, he was targeted to be murdered because he didn't play ball with the government. And although he was incredibly tough, incredibly powerful, on the inside he clearly wasn't. And this chemical weapons test, it killed him. Honestly, this Iron Monroe character seemed like he was a pretty cool guy, but he didn't comply, and just like the Sandman, got completely railroaded. And once again, Kale makes it pretty clear. 3 out of 100 examples throughout history, there have been individuals who have acted outside of the status quo. And the status quo has dealt with those individuals one way or another. Who remembers them now? So it goes, and so it has always gone, until now. And now she's about to go over the current heroes of the Absolute Universe. And she starts with my personal favorite, Absolute Wonder Woman. See, when Wonder Woman was fighting her first big villain of her Absolute series, it was the Tetracide, Death personified. This thing was ridiculously powerful, and during this battle, Diana made the entire city deaf, something she did to protect them, because if this creature made its calling sound, it would make anyone who heard it willingly walk right into its belly, ending their own lives in an extremely painful way. But that's not all she did during this fight. She didn't just turn into a Gorgon like Kale says, she turned into the Gorgon. She turned into actual Medusa, turning the Tetracide into stone and defeating it with one punch, even going on a bit of a rampage before Steve Trevor actually stopped her and brought her back. But what made Kale the most nervous is how the military completely listened to Diana, and she doesn't really understand why. She's wondering if it's her tone, if it's some kind of mind control. Why wasn't she arrested? Why did the military men all completely listen to Diana with no fight whatsoever, following her lead and allowing her to defeat the Tetracide and leave peacefully? Well, to be fair, she wasn't actually able to leave. Right after defeating the Tetracide, she was actually dragged to the underworld to go up against Hades, something we already covered, but let's continue. Now, of course, for those of you who read Absolute Wonder Woman, it's simply who Diana is. She didn't do any kind of spell or mind control. She has the same effect on people as Superman does in the OG universe. People trust her, they believe in her, they will follow her, and all she really has to do is ask. There's a warmth and understanding that comes with that character, and it made everyone kind of just bend to her will. But obviously, outside looking in, it looks a little suspicious. So because of all that power and the fact that people listen to her, she sees Diana as one of the most dangerous people on the planet. And it won't be so easy to railroad her like they railroaded the other heroes of the past. And the same goes for Absolute Superman, as she says, at the same time word spreads of another creature, this one is male, violently disrupting Lazarus Corp operations in Brazil, shrugging off artillery that would have blown a hole right through Iron Monroe. And now that I know that Iron Monroe was the inspiration behind Superman, it's pretty cool that they connect the two here in the Absolute Universe as well. And they made it a really big deal that Lois did not follow the Brainiac algorithm and that she wrote her own report back in the Absolute Superman comics, something that's commented on here too. But they don't stop there, as they also bring up Absolute Batman. And oh my god, they use the actual Dark Knight pose for Absolute Batman. It was very cool. I kind of fanned out about this, but either way, she talks about how he is human, or at least she thinks so, because just like OG Batman, he does things that redefine what a human can actually be. And of course, now that the conversation is on Absolute Batman, Absolute Joker finally speaks up, because Bruce did not take the money. Another issue that we covered is when the party animals working under the Joker tried to offer Bruce millions of dollars to stand down and allow them to wreak havoc in Gotham. And although it looked like he actually took it, he made it real clear in the next issue he was not to be bought or bribed. Unlike Absolute Wildcat, who essentially sold his soul for $50,000, here, Bruce wasn't gonna sell it for millions. He fought and nearly died against the party animals. His morals, his sense of right and wrong are far stronger. And this is where Kale finally really makes her sales pitch, as she talks about Absolute Green Lantern, Absolute Flash, Absolute Martian Manhunter, talking about how with all these beings continuously popping up, the status quo is changing. And it's not just what they can do, it's what they can inspire others to do. Change is coming, and the government does not like it. So she's offering all of them to work together, to pool all of their resources to stop this huge uprising of new heroes with new abilities. Because like I said before, it's not as easy as it used to be back in the day. You can't railroad somebody that just wants to do good in some costume by themselves. This new era of heroes in the Absolute Universe are more powerful. Their morals are stronger. They'll put up a far greater fight than the heroes of the past. And because of that, Kale feels like they all have to work together. They cannot privately fight against these heroes. And surprise, surprise, Hector Hammond, the one that's been causing all the ruckus, he's the first one to not want to do this. No sale. He doesn't feel like he needs any help from any of these guys. He's the one that took out the Green Lantern. And the way he sees it, this is all just a scare story. But something that rang true about this kind of story is people like them always find a way to take care of the heroes. They always find a way to maintain the status quo. They don't need to work together, and he does not need any of these people. And this is when we see Ra's tell Kale now is a good time and to bring in Mr. Hall. And Mr. Hall is Carter Hall, bringing in the dead body, beaten and battered, Oliver Queen. He murdered him off screen. They're using Ollie as a stamp to show just how serious they are, as an example and nothing more. He really was nothing. He meant nothing. He was truly no threat at all. And it's honestly pretty crazy. Green Arrow fans must be in shambles. The Absolute Universe is so exciting, and their version of Absolute Oliver Queen is nothing more than a punchline. And this goes so much deeper than just randomly murdering Green Arrow off screen. They knew about the problems he was dealing with without him telling them. They knew what he said on the cell phone, as Ra's al Ghul literally quotes him. They know everything, and they don't deal with their issues in a month or a week. They deal with it the same day. This group is not messing around when it comes to these heroes. But despite all this, Hammond is still not on board. As a matter of fact, Eleanor Thawne isn't either. She knows that if they need the favor that Kale makes it seem like they can easily get, they'll still be in a bidding war with the Lazarus Corps. So sure, Kale has made a decent point, but the way Eleanor sees it is just a way for all of them to get into each other's pocket, which isn't exactly advantageous. And it's not like these are all just favors. It's not like these guys are friends. And that's where Joker steps in, as he asks for the floor, because he has done some research of his own, and this information is so important, so proprietary, that if anyone actually leaks it, he'll be taking it deadly serious, staring right at Ra's al Ghul. But we get a quick surprise, as Brainiac has been listening the entire time, as he responds to Joker saying, "Duly noted." Now this research Joker and his men have been doing is something incredible. They've found something better than what is known as the God Particle. They have found something called the Omega Particle. And Joker claims this thing has a spiritual dimension to it, a moral dimension. Joker and his people were able to find a subatomic particle that understands the concepts of good and evil. And Eleanor is having a hard time believing this, and Hammond is still very shook about Oliver Queen being dead on the table. But Ra's makes it clear. He's made it clear a few times now. He never jokes. He is being dead serious about every single thing that comes out of his mouth. With this particle, the Joker has essentially figured out that the universe is not an accident. This was created. There's a moral force behind everything. The winners stay the winners, the losers stay the losers. None of this was a mistake. All of it was designed. And Joker has no idea how right he really is. In a way, based on what he was able to find, he sees people fighting against the status quo as unjust, as being the ones in the wrong, and now he sees that God is on their side, and that they're the ones that's just, trying to keep the universe how it's supposed to be, how it's designed. Through science, Joker is able to confirm what Kale is basically saying and why they should work together. How they may not be friends, they don't need to be. This is far beyond friendship. The Joker sees people like Green Arrow as anarchists, people going against the justice of the universe. And he believes although they don't need to be friends, they definitely need to be allies to fight against the injustice of people like Oliver Queen, of people like the heroes Kale is talking about. And because of that, this is essentially the creation of the evil Justice League. In an extremely twisted way, this is how they're showing us the new Justice League, as they drag Oliver's corpse out and officially form their alliance. Brother, this was insane. But we're not done yet. See, Brainiac is able to get all this information, and we find out he's able to do this through Mirror Master. He's the one with the mirrors allowing him to hear all of this, and Brainiac is simply fascinated. And he's made his own analysis when it comes to this brand new Justice League, as he says, "Indeed, a measure of balance suits my own goals. Hammond balances Ra's and Hawkman. Their egos can focus on one another. And Thawne's skepticism matches Kale, the true believer. But the man who doesn't joke, we need to reflect him, learn his secrets, negate his threat." Absolute Joker is a complete enigma to the Brainiac, and he feels like this team would be complete as long as they have one more member. And we see this member having tea, enjoying the sunset, having a great life, thinking back on the days where he was a younger man, angry and envious of everyone for their popularity, for their looks. He was so much worse off, but now he's a better man. He's got everything he could ever want. And when his wife offers him up some cheeks, it looks like life is only about to get better, but he gets a phone call, and we find out who this man is. It turns out this man with the great life, no longer envious, no longer a bitter person, is absolute Lex Luthor. It looks like he is the final member of this extremely evil Justice League, as he answers the phone looking as innocent as he ever has, with the Omega symbol being made in the clouds right behind him. An extremely ominous ending to this comic. So yeah, this may not have been action-packed like the other Absolute issues, but this is clearly the most important one. And this is how the issue ends. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. I really did. Man, so much happened here, and it was all just in a room with these guys talking. You learned so much about this new universe. But either way, I'll see you guys on the next issue. Please drop a like and a subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one.